believe I just made this door? I don't know if I can believe it. I made it out of broken down fences from Hurricane Michael, and I put a mirror in it, and I'm in love with it. Luke is gonna show us how to hang it. To get this job done as fast as possible, make sure you have a cute little baby hanging around that needs your help.
Wanna come help us? Wanna come help us? Yeah?
First thing you might want to do is cover your clothes. You're gonna screw into the hardware up top, and so all the dust is gonna fall. So just make sure you cover your clothes. You'll be glad you did.
The next thing we're gonna do is attach the two rails together.
Luke is reading the directions. Let it be known.
But before we do that, we have to put these bumpers on. Now we have the rail connected. You want this rail to be level. The next step, if you're installing this on concrete, is you're gonna have to drill holes for where you want to drill the rail into the wall. If you're doing it on wood, you don't have to drill holes for it. Now comes the most important part of hanging the rail. You want to make sure that you get your screws into studs or concrete. If you're a do-it-yourselfer, you know that you need to hang heavy stuff into studs, not sheetrock. Secondly, it's very critical that you hang your rail at the proper height, because if you hang it too high, you're gonna have a big gap between your floor and the bottom of the door, or if you hang it too low, your door's not gonna go on the hangers because the door's gonna be too tall and it's gonna go above the rail, and the rail's gonna be here and your hanger's gonna be here.
We've come up with 5 easy steps. This may look like a lot, but first of all, I highly recommend you draw a picture. So look at this picture. I have our hole here with our trim. I have where I think I want to put the rail. And then I have the door covering my hole all the way. I have the recommended, to remember, 3/8 inch off the floor. And then I have the measurements that you're gonna wanna find, okay? So this is our hanger. This is our rail. I should probably write rail on there, above our trim. You may have to put your rail on your trim. Some people have done that. I don't want to. Now, in my case, I just built my door, hoping and planning that it would cover my hole, not knowing about the hardware. If you can do these measurements before with your hardware, then that will help you know the size of your door. I'll show you the measurements we need, but basically it's 3 measurements. First step, the hardware recommends that we screw the top hole of your hanger. This is your hanger piece. This screw, they recommend to be 1 9/16 inch from the top of the door. So the middle of this hole should be 1 9/16 down from the door. We're going to measure that on our door and make a mark. This is what we did, and Luke has made a mark right there. 9/16 is just a little bit over a half. We have 2 marks. We did their mark, and then based on our house and based on our door. It doesn't work that way. I'm gonna show you how to make those adjustments. But first of all, try and just go with their measurements and then make adjustments. Because what you have here is 2 things that can move. You have to decide which is the more crucial thing that matters. The 2 things that you have to decide is where the rail will go and how far on the door, at what height are you going to hang this. So you measure down, make that mark. Number 2 step is we're gonna measure from this mark all the way down to the bottom. My measurement is 83 inches. That's my adjusted height of my door. Step 3, measure from the inside groove of the wheel, because that's where it meets the track. It kisses the track right there. Measure from that height to the middle of your screw hole. That's the place we just marked on the door. Our height from the groove to the middle of our screw hole is 3 3/4 inches. That's our second measurement we need. The last measurement is our total height that our door will hang at, given the hangers. So we want to add the 3/8 that is recommended for it to be off the floor. We find that total by adding the adjusted height of our door. We add the height of the hanger from the groove, so our 83 inches, plus our 3 3/4, and we add 3/8 because we want to account for how the little gap off the floor. We added that total, and our total is 87 1/8 inch. That is the height of where the groove rolls on the top of your wall, on the rail, all the way down to the floor. So now we have our total is 87 and 1/8. That is where the door will hang on the rails. We measured that, and that means that our rail is going to hit here. Our rail is 1.5 inches. You're taking that height, you measure from the floor, because we already added that 3/8 inch. So we measure 87 and 1/8 all the way from the floor. If I do it at 87 and 1/8, it's like right there. And then the width of the rail is 1.5 inches. That puts my rail on my trim. And I don't want to do that. I want my rail to be right as little as I can, because I don't want my door to be hanging off the floor. But I want to put my rail right on the trim.
Right on the top of the trim.
Right on the top of the trim, okay?
Right there.
But if you have to put it on the trim, you can do that. But we're gonna adjust it. So I measured that. If yours fits, then you know, if you measured your total that we just found, those 3 measurements, you add them together, you measured it from the bottom, and everything's great and it looks good, you know that's where you want to screw in your rail, and that's where you want to screw in your hanger on your door. So you would screw it right on that mark. But I don't want to do that. I want to adjust. So I am going to say my rail has to be here. The difference is 1 inch for me right here. So I'm going to take off that 9/16, wasn't it? From here, and I made a new mark. That's what we were talking about before. So instead of it screwing in the original recommended place, we're going to screw it up a little bit, because my door is shorter than needed if you wanted to put it where it's recommended for that bite. So we'll just put a little bit less of a bite on there, but it will be fine. We'll put bolts on it and it'll hold the door just fine. If that makes sense, you take that total that we found, and if everything's good, you like where the height of the door is, you like where the rail is, screw everything in. Okay, that's your measurements. But if not, then I adjust my rail up to be above the trim, and then that is where I would want to measure my total height from. So that 87 and 1/8 would be 1.5 inches up. Well, guess what? I didn't like my door being that far off the floor. So instead, I'm going to have a little less bite here, giving our total length only 1/2 inch off the floor. So 3/8. So the 2 things that, if I would have known this before I built my door, is yes, where I want to put the track. I knew that, but I didn't know this crucial measurement from the inside groove of the wheel to that middle screw. That is what it really will tell you how tall to build your door.
These bumpers have a little set, 2 little set screws on the top that you're supposed to tighten down when you're done hanging the door and you've adjusted the door to where you want it to stop. Tighten one of them just a little bit so this thing doesn't slide, and then you can loosen it and retighten it to where you want the door to open and close to when you get to that point. Now that you know what to measure for of where to hang the rail, now we've got to find the studs in the wall in order to do that. Depending on the age of your house or the way the studs were laid out for the wall that your closet is in, you may or may not have studs that are 16 inches on center. And that's the case with our house. I made this first mark, and when I measured over to the next one, it's 19 inches. If they would have done it properly, it should be 16 inches instead of 19. When you go from here to the next mark, that's 16, then that's 16, and then that one, where'd it go? This one over here is 18. One last thing is to not trust your stud finder. I always verify with a hammer and nail. Long story short, the rail that we have has the holes already drilled for every 16 inches. So what I'm gonna have to do, you're gonna have to do this too if you're in the same situation, is you're gonna have to get a drill bit and drill a hole in the rail where it's gonna fit on the stud, or where it's gonna allow you to put a screw in it that's gonna hit a stud. It's kind of annoying, but sometimes that's just what you have to do when you're doing makeshift kind of projects like these. If you end up having to drill holes in your rail like I did, I suggest a Cobalt, not the brand, but the material style drill bit, because it will last a little bit longer. I was able to get about 5 holes in before it melted. Another thing I suggest is buying a couple of drill bits, especially if you go at, say, I don't know, 9 o'clock at night, right when the store's closing, so that if you melt one drill bit, you have a couple extra backups. Another tip I received was to take a smaller drill bit and drill a small hole first, because that will help the larger drill bit to grab better. In my case, I had to drill a hole with a 5/16 bit, and I ended up buying a 1/8 inch bit to drill a smaller hole first.
Good morning. Don't feel bad if you don't get this done all at once. Just keep going at it.
Now we're ready to put on the hangers. You're gonna wanna follow the measurements, the measurement instructions that we gave earlier, and then you're gonna put your hanger on your door. You're gonna mark the holes, you're gonna drill the holes, and then you're gonna install the hardware. And now for the crowning moment. Got our rail installed. Now we're just gonna pop this onto the rail, and then we'll set our bumpers.
Wait for it. And we have liftoff.
Ready?
You better roll.
They're not rolling because the bolts on the back of here are hitting the trim. Always more than one wrinkle to these projects. We had a little issue when we put our door up here first where it was too close to the trim, and so it ended up scratching it a little bit. What we did is we got some more spacers right here, and I just bought a box of these spacers. They're just some washers. Just washers. And we took 4 of them and we put them behind, and we ended up having to buy some longer screws too, because the screws we had just weren't going to be able to bite enough into the 2x4. We put 4 in the back of each spacer, and that's going to space it out enough so that none of the bolts or anything back here are going to rub on the trim. So we have our hangers on, we have our track up, ready to go. Now comes the moment of truth.
Woo! The moment we've all been waiting for. This better work. Put the wheels on the track.
Okay, wheels are on the track. The wheels on the track go round and round.
That's what I was thinking. Hopefully it doesn't bump in the track at the seam.
And then you want to double check and make sure
It's
as
not
you're rolling
rubbing.
that nothing is rubbing
It's not rubbing on anything.
or hitting anywhere that it shouldn't be. Oh man, that's smooth as butter.
It's not rubbing anywhere.
Not rubbing anywhere.
No
rubbing.
friction, no
Friction,
resistance.
no resistance.
You guys aren't killing each other yet, are you?
Oh no, we're happy now. Here we go, ready?
It looks so great, and it
That
rolls.
rolls so much better. Holy cow.
Woohoo! We have our stoppers there.
Boom. There you have it.
I love it, honey.
Big thanks to this guy right here, because he came in and gave us the 2 cents after it was rubbing on the trim. I had one idea about how to do it, and then he goes, well, what you need to do is space them out. So get some spacers, get some longer screws, and it fixed everything. So now it works. So thanks, Bob.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Holly, for all your help too.
Yeah,
And
I love my door.
yes, this thing works just as good as can be.
All right, thanks for watching with us. Stay tuned for the next video about how I made these doors. I'll do one without a mirror and the one with the mirror. So that's our next video.
Give us a like if you enjoyed watching this, and leave us a comment about your barn door installing experiences, because this definitely took me a little bit longer than I was anticipating, like most things. So
Yeah, let us know if the formula helped you, those measurements that you need. Or if you have questions, we'll see if we can help you out. So we're going swimming.
yeah.
See ya.
See you next time.